Holy shit. He said what?
Breaking right now, Thomas Markle Jr., the sister of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has lashed out at his sister and her husband Prince Harry in the most brutal interview he has ever given.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorites.
It's really a little bit disturbing, saying that, you know, she doesn't have a family, she doesn't have a father, and then Harry saying that she has no father now. That's just ridiculous.
I think she's taking advantage of a very weakened man and getting him to say things that you just shouldn't be saying on television.
Meghan Markle is always attempting to, shall we say, build relationships with very, very, very rich men.
Royal family, you should be so thankful this woman wanted to leave, because she's not going to bring any good to the branding of royal. She's going to downgrade it to a level of ghetto, and that's what it is. This is just bad.
August 4th, 40 years ago, Meghan was born, and she was born as a C-section, so she was put in my arm. I was the first person to hold her. Her little hand went around my fingers like that, and I fell in love with her, and I had been that way for 40 years.
Okay. Am I there?
I really do miss her.
I hope you're having the best birthday you've ever had. Thank you for everything.
Do you still love your daughter?
Of course I do. I love my children. I love my other daughter. I love my son. Of course I love them.
After years of silence and growing rumors, Meghan Markle's estranged brother, Thomas Markle Jr., is finally speaking out. And what he's revealing isn't just emotional, it's explosive. According to Thomas, beneath the royal headlines is a family story that's far more heartbreaking than anyone imagined.
She doesn't know us. You know, it's just very bizarre how she just basically brushed the entire family under the carpet like we don't exist, and then lied about not having a family and lied about she doesn't have a family that she's always wanted. You know, we've always been here.
He remembers moments caught on now lost home videos when Meghan shared a real loving connection with their dad. A time, he says, that looks nothing like the way she treats him now.
Like any proud parent, his home is littered with photos of his beloved children.
For the longest time, she wanted to be a dancer.
Each image is a heartbreaking reminder of happier times.
To Thomas, those actions weren't mistakes. They were betrayal. But before we get to the home tapes and how this family fell apart, he drops his most brutal claim yet. Thomas doesn't just think Meghan changed Harry, he believes she destroyed him.
Do you think your sister, Meghan Markle, has ruined Prince Harry?
The answer is yes. I mean, every single interview, every single picture, every place they go, Meghan grabs him. Meghan controls him. Meghan tells him no. Meghan stands in front of him. She controls every single situation like she is the star. And she's turned Prince Harry into a man of non-substance, you know, for her own well-being.
So, what does Thomas say Meghan really did to Prince Harry? Let's break it down. He doesn't hold back. Thomas says you don't need royal connections to see the truth. Just look at Harry's face. To him, Harry moves like a ghost of his former self. And that shift? It's no accident. Thomas blames Meghan's influence completely.
I do believe Meghan is driving this whole caravan for him. He is so stressed out. You can see it in his face. Despair. He's confused. He thinks he's going to get in trouble if he doesn't say exactly what Meghan says. Very sad to watch.
But that's just the surface. Thomas says Meghan's polished image, graceful, kind, down-to-earth, is a cover. Behind it, he claims, is someone much more calculating. He calls her a bully, and at the center of it all, a deep, unshakable narcissism. He describes a woman who sees herself as the flawless lead in every story, not chasing praise, because in her mind, she is the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly hurtful. I also have always had sympathy with your father because I felt that he was thrown to the wolves. He tried to do the right thing, he came unstuck, and they just disowned it.
Thomas says when someone lives that way, accountability never stands a chance. Meghan doesn't need fan clubs, he adds. She's already her own loudest supporter. But he doesn't stop there. He claims her entire self-made image rests on a shaky foundation. Lies, plain and simple. Especially the rags to riches story the world has heard again and again.
Yeah, actually, it was because of Meghan that it was taken away. Meghan could have had it there if she wanted to have it there. Instead, she wanted to have a bunch of celebrities she barely knew, from the Clooneys to the Beckhams to Elton John to James Gordon to Timbuktu. I mean, it looked like anyone she'd met on the party circuit in the previous 2 years got the invite.
It's not easy to hear, but it raises a hard question. What's really fueling all this outrage? Thomas says it's much bigger than family drama. He claims Meghan isn't just rewriting her past, she's chasing a future that was never hers. A future where she becomes the next Princess Diana. And that obsession? Thomas says it's spiraled into a dangerous fixation on one person, Catherine, the Princess of Wales.
I knew Meghan for a bit before she met Harry. Did exactly the same to me. You know, she did that to many people that she knew, that she'd either worked with or was friends with or whatever. It just seems to me she's what I would call a ruthless social climber, who just when people are no longer appropriate parts of her circle, they have to be expunged quickly so she can move on up the ladder.
Thomas claims Meghan's jealousy, mixed with what he calls extreme narcissism, creates a cycle she can't escape. First, she plays the victim. Then she stirs up a crisis. And finally, she blames everyone else. If Thomas is right, this isn't just about fame. It's about trying to reshape the monarchy around herself. And the chaos didn't stop with the Markles. He says it only grew stronger once Meghan stepped into the royal spotlight.
What do you think's the biggest mistake that Harry and Meghan have made?
Leaving the royals, because that was what she married into. That was explained to her. The people of England loved her and loved Harry, and I mean, they were the stars. Everybody loved them in England.
Thomas says that's when the real damage began. And the first casualty? Prince Harry. He paints a picture of a power dynamic that's not just unequal, it's carefully controlled. Meghan, he claims, manages every public move, every appearance, down to the tiniest detail, all to make sure she stays front and center. In his words, this isn't a marriage, it's a staged production. Meghan's the star, and Harry? He's the background actor with barely a line.
And I think it was a desperate plea because they've made their bed for the last 6 years and now they're sleeping on them, and the entire world knows exactly what's happening with those two.
That constant control, Thomas argues, has chipped away at who Harry used to be. Once the bold royal who broke tradition, he's now just a side character in someone else's story. And the worst part? Thomas says he's not the only one who sees it. To him, this isn't just a personal change, it's a full-on PR rebrand of a prince. Even Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle Sr., agrees. He says it looks like Meghan's using a man who's clearly not himself anymore. For the family, it's beyond sad. It's a tragedy.
Do you have any advice for Harry?
Yeah, stop talking about the royals. Stop giving away all the secrets about the royals, and love your children and love your wife, but also love your grandmother and love your father.
Thomas Jr. doesn't hold back. He says Meghan was given a life most people only dream about. Royalty, fame, power. But instead of meeting that with grace, she chose to light bridges on fire, stirring up conflict, cutting Harry off from the world he once knew. And that's what makes it so hard to understand. Because Thomas swears if you watched those old home videos, you'd see someone completely different. A girl laughing with her father, grounded, full of warmth. But now, her family barely recognizes who she's become. And that change, Thomas warns, may have cost the world a prince and a family its soul.
Well, that's her first wedding in Jamaica. That's one of my favorite pictures. I'd like to have that experience with my granddaughter.
If you could get just one message across to your daughter now, what would it be?
As always, I do love you, and I wish we could sit down and talk about it. I'm not an ogre. I'd love to talk to her.
To really understand the scale of what Thomas Jr. calls Meghan's royal takedown, he says you have to look up to the way she treated Queen Elizabeth. From the very start of her royal chapter, Thomas claims Meghan showed little respect for the late monarch. But the most explosive part? He says there was a final brutal clash behind palace walls, a confrontation so serious he believes it's the real reason Meghan and Harry fled the UK. Not the media, not the pressure, but a private fallout tied to a much larger pattern. A playbook Meghan, he says, had already used within her own family.
And now, like I said, Meghan did it to me, and now Harry's doing it to his father. That's a cold thing to do, and it's even more cold to do it to the Queen, who's in her 90s. None of this makes sense.
Samantha Markle backs it all up. She remembers when she and Meghan were genuinely close, before the spotlight, before the fame. But once Meghan rose to celebrity status, Samantha says everything changed. Sisterhood turned into silence. And that silence, she says, cuts the deepest. According to Samantha, Meghan's entire career wouldn't have happened without their father's support and connections. No Hollywood, no royal wedding, no global platform. For the Markles, it's not about clout or jealousy. It's about being cast aside by the very person they once lifted up. And to Thomas Jr., the real pain isn't just being left out, it's being erased.
Has she made any attempt to contact your father since he had his stroke?
None whatsoever. And, you know, I totally agree with you on the fact that none of us were ever coached or given any help with the paparazzi or press since the very beginning, which has caused a lot of problems. Nobody reached out. I actually reached out.
He says Meghan and Harry's carefully built public story has wiped their whole family off the map, as if they never existed. Over the years, he's tried reaching out, hoping to fix the damage, but all he got in return was silence. Not distance. Silence. Cold and calculated. Like he's a complete stranger to the sister he grew up with. And to him, that silence isn't just emotional, it's strategic. A rewrite of the past that cuts out anyone who doesn't match the brand. The clearest example? The royal wedding. What should have been a moment to bring families together became a public shutout. No calls, no invites, nothing. And Thomas insists they didn't want fame, money, or recognition. They just wanted a seat at the table.
My congratulations to Meghan and to Harry.
Harry and Meghan say they plan to call her Lily.
Lily is a perfect name. And the other thing that makes me happy is there's now about a lot more Markle blood in the royal family.
The fallout, Thomas says, was total. So final that he's made a promise. He'll never speak to Meghan again. To him, this wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the moment he accepted that the Meghan they once knew is gone. And he believes her public image? It's finally collapsing. But the real breaking point came for their father, during one sharp, unforgettable moment. A conversation so cold, so final, it convinced him the daughter he raised no longer exists. And Thomas warns, cutting off her family was just step one. Now, he says, Meghan may turn that same ruthless strategy on Harry. His prediction is blunt. Meghan's connection to Harry isn't about love, it's about legacy. The second that title loses value, Thomas believes, Harry's out.
Harry just can't give her anything else anymore. He served his purpose. His purpose is over, and they're no longer aligned in purpose. So it's for her, it's time to move on.
She's already gotten the benefit of her bargain with Harry because she got the title. That's what she wanted. She wanted to be world famous. She wanted the title. You remember when Harry was single, he was the elephant. He was the one, the most eligible bachelor on earth. You could be a royal, you could become world famous overnight. You could live in a castle, you could have access to the crown jewels, you would be a princess. My God, yes, he could have had his pick.
It's a harsh claim, especially when you compare it to those lost family videos where Meghan looked warm, grounded, and full of love. Clips the public has never seen, showing a girl who laughed freely with her dad. But Thomas Jr. insists that version of Meghan is long gone, and if she ever reaches out to their father again, he says, don't be fooled. It won't be out of love, it'll be strategy. Just another PR move in a carefully scripted story. He's clear, if Meghan ever comes back, it won't be for forgiveness. It'll be to repair her image.
How can she sit there saying, I so love my family, my family love me, and ruthlessly cut you, Tom Sr. and Samantha out of her life?
That Meghan Markle really did expect Harry to be a billionaire when she met him. She was incredibly disappointed to find out he's only worth a couple million, and she's gonna have to actually work and hawk these jams and jellies and dog biscuits to have the lifestyle that she wants.
And in Thomas's words, the public will see through it. But then he pushes the line even further, into dangerous, controversial territory. He starts questioning the very foundation of Meghan and Harry's family life, even raising doubts about the most sensitive topic of all, their children. It's a bold claim, and no one knows if it holds any truth. But Thomas stands firm on one belief. He says those children are now being used as pawns in Meghan's ongoing war against both sides of the family.
I mean, that moment when Prince Harry, who's never met your father, says that Meghan has no father. What did you think of that?
I think it's horrible. The documentary is so far off on so many different levels.
It's a disturbing picture. A household that looks perfect for the cameras, but is empty behind the scenes. And Thomas isn't the only one who feels that way. Even their father, Thomas Markle Sr., has spoken out. In a painful public statement, he said it feels like Meghan and Harry have ghosted both families, cut every tie, shut every door, and replaced connection with silence. A silence that doesn't just hurt, it echoes.
Let's just say I'm hoping it doesn't go on forever. Right now I'm talking to Meghan and Harry. I love you guys. We can work out the problems. I don't think there's any problems that can't be worked out. And I've said I'm sorry about the initial problem. If I've said anything today that offended anyone, I'm sorry about that too. But I'm just telling the truth and how I feel about what's going on.
Thomas Sr. doesn't describe scandal or revenge. He describes silence. A home that should be filled with holidays, grandchildren, and laughter now sits cold and hollow. While Thomas Jr. paints Meghan as a controlling force, their father's story is softer, but even more devastating. His pain doesn't come from betrayal, but from regret. One mistake, one poor decision, a moment he calls dumb. That's cost him everything. And the punishment? He says it's worse than most people who've committed real crimes, a life sentence of being shut out.
If I had done something terribly wrong, that would be fine, but I haven't. So I just want an answer. I don't like to say it, but I gotta say it. I don't know of anybody that cold to do this. I'll be very disappointed that I don't get to hold my granddaughter.
Does it hurt?
Of course it hurts. There are axe murderers in prison. Their family comes to see them, right? I mean, I'm not an axe murderer.
He says he's living out a life sentence, cut off from his daughter with no chance at reconciliation, no second chance, no mercy. But what truly breaks him? The fear that he'll never hold his granddaughter, never hear her laugh, never be more than a stranger in her world. And what hurts most is the irony. Meghan and Harry built their entire image around compassion, healing, and family. Yet Thomas Sr. says that compassion never reached the man who raised her. And through all the silence, the heartbreak, and the headlines, one truth has never changed. He's never stopped loving his daughter.
I made one dumb mistake, and I'm never being forgiven for it. And this show that they're on, they talk about compassion. There's no compassion for me. There's no compassion for my family. And there's no compassion for the royals.
Thomas Markle Sr. doesn't dance around it. No matter how bad things got, he's still her father. And that bond, at least for him, still exists. But when someone asks him the hardest question, "Do you think she still loves you?" he can't answer. Just silence. A quiet, painful uncertainty. And what makes that silence even worse is what it replaced. The memory of the last time he ever heard Meghan's voice. A short phone call from his hospital bed, days before the wedding. A moment that should have brought healing, not heartbreak.
Is part of you tempted to just drive up to California, turn up on their doorstep and knock on the door?
I'd never do that. That makes me a stalker. I'm not a stalker. She knows where I live. Harry's invited to come down anytime he wants by himself, or Meghan's invited to come down anytime she wants by herself or with Harry. I would love that. Father's Day is coming up. That really hurts when Father's Day comes up.
But instead, it became the end. Since that day, Thomas says his health has gone downhill fast. A heart attack, then a major stroke. And through it all, not a single message, not one call, no sign that Meghan even cared. He says he's baffled, overwhelmed by the silence, and heartbroken by the complete lack of forgiveness.
Do you see similarities in the way Harry has treated Charles and the way Meghan has treated you?
Yes, I see them both ghosting their families completely. Now basically now they're alone in a huge house that they could probably accommodate 20 people in, and it's just the four of them. But
what cuts through in every interview is Thomas Sr.'s honesty. There's no performance, just raw sincerity. He says if he knew how to fix things, he'd do it in a heartbeat. And the most surprising part? He doesn't hold a single grudge, not even against the man who took his place at Meghan's wedding. As he lay in a hospital bed, King Charles walked her down the aisle. But instead of bitterness, Thomas calls it a gesture of fatherly duty, one he wishes he could have fulfilled himself. No anger, no resentment, just quiet acceptance of the role he never got to play.
There's some irony to the fact that Harry and Meghan are now living just a few hours up the road from you.
Right.
Yet they might as well be on a different planet in terms of the amount of contact that you're all having.
Exactly. I'm not a tearful type, but I keep everything in here. I don't really let it out but I'm certainly hurt by a lot of it.
No matter the setting, his message never changes. He's not chasing fame, payback, or pity. He just wants a conversation. A chance to show Meghan he's not the villain the press painted him to be. And the most heartbreaking detail? He lives just a short drive away from Meghan's mansion. So close, yet completely shut out. Still, he refuses to show up uninvited. He won't push a confrontation. He respects her space, her choices, even as he's been erased from her world. When asked if his mistakes may have hurt Meghan's mental health, he doesn't run from it. He admits it's possible, but he quietly adds, she's never been alone. He's always been just one phone call away.
Meghan's been very open about her mental health struggle.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself partly to blame for her suffering?
Maybe to some percentage, but I was there at any time. She could have picked the phone and called me at any time. She has my phone number, so.
I'm your grandpa. That's the phrase that haunts him. At the heart of it all, his message is painfully simple: forgiveness and a second chance. Thomas truly believes that no wound is too deep to heal, if they could just talk. Just once. But time is slipping away. He speaks with quiet honesty about his health. He knows the clock is ticking. And with every passing day, the fear grows. That he may never get to meet his grandchildren, never get to hold them, speak to them, tell them who he is. He's not after sympathy. He wants to disappear from the headlines. His only wish? To share the quiet life he's built with the family that now feels like a memory. That, he says, is the heartbreaking truth.
You're not getting any younger. Do you worry that you might never meet these two grandchildren?
July 18th, I'll be 77 years old. Most of the Markle men don't make it much past 80. So there's a good chance I might never see my grandchildren. I'm not looking for pity. I'm just saying that's a reality.
And then come the home videos, the kind that hit harder than any headline ever could. They capture a different time, a different Meghan, a different family. You see a little girl's face light up as she spots her dad in the crowd at school. She's glowing with pride when she says, "Daddy, I got an English award." It's a moment so genuine, so full of love, it feels unreal compared to the silence that surrounds them now. And that's what makes this story so human and so deeply heartbreaking.
Have you sort of given up hope of a reconciliation with Harry and Meghan?
I'll never give up hope. I'll stay in the game. I mean, like I said, if I'm called or visited, they're welcome anytime they want to come down. I'm here.
Because yes, we can all admit what her father did before the wedding was a serious breach of trust. But when you weigh that one mistake against everything that's followed, his declining health, his public apologies, and the endless accusations from Meghan's own family, it forces one brutal question. Can a single failure erase a lifetime of love? So now we ask you, was Meghan drawing a line to protect her peace, or did she cut too deep? Did she shut out the people who once stood by her, and in doing so, become exactly who they say she is?
Do you think she still loves you?
I have no idea. I don't, like I said, I haven't spoken to her since I was laying in a hospital bed 2 days before they got married. That's the last conversation we had. That was it. I haven't spoken to him since.
This is one of those stories everyone has something to say about, and we want to hear your take. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this deep dive hit you hard, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss what's next here on Star Spotlight. We've got more raw truths, real drama, and behind-the-scenes chaos on the way.